Welcome back to SportsLine. John Burton and Jeff Jarrett here for the entire hour. Great to have you here. I hope you're having a good time.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love taking the calls.
Before we went to break, we had Morgan on the line. She wanted to know about. I mean, let's face it, it's a different era now with professional wrestling. Kayfabe it's been dead for a long time, but now it's totally dead.
Who are you talking about? I don't even know the word.
Exactly. My point is, everybody knows how the sausage is made. You know, with Twitter,
they think they know.
They think they know, and it's funny because everybody thinks they know how to book a wrestling show, right? I mean, right? This guy,
armchair quarterback.
This guy should be the top guy, and why aren't they giving this guy a push? But Morgan had a question about how now that WWE has its own network, it has a lot of behind-the-scenes shows about how talent is picked and how they train. And you didn't have that when you trained.
No.
You had probably a little tiny ring that was was about as hard as this table, and you were bumping on it. And it's a lot, maybe not easier to get into big time wrestling, but you can get seen and get exposure a little bit easier now, can't you?
But that's society. That's why. And I get not this specific question asked, but in the same neighborhood of that. In that when I broke in, there was 1 hour. That you got to be seen on the local station, and that was your opportunity. Then you had your match that week on a weekly basis, and the social media of the 80s was when the match was over, who hung around your car and either cussed you out or told you how great your match was. But as time has gone on, the exposure, and I love it. I think the opportunities nowadays are just through the roof because it's not just in our business. Look at the Notre Dame, was it a Showtime series that they just added a different episode, Hard Knocks, the WWE Network, and what WWE has done for our industry. You can't really put a price on it. I mean, you talk about the Super Bowl is the biggest sporting event in the world. Sure. The World Cup's right up there, obviously, but as a one-day sporting event, it's huge. Well, this year WrestleMania is at Dallas Stadium. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah. So and that place will be packed.
It'll be full.
You won't find a seat in that place.
And I'll go back to The Rock. When you talk about The Rock, it's not like you're getting, in the early days of WrestleMania, you had Liberace, and he was, God rest his soul. But but nowadays, the Ronda Rousey was last year, and she is the hottest box office attraction that UFC has. So wrestling is mainstream. That's a lot of people, if they're north of 35, 40 years old, they still have the mentality, oh, that's professional wrestling. Right. The millennials of today put professional wrestling, yes, you have your diehard sporting events, but some kids growing up, and I cannot even fathom it, that they don't know who the #1 team in the nation is in NCAA. They don't know who Steph Curry is, but they can tell you the top 10 wrestlers, they can tell you the best skateboarder in the world, they can tell you the top 10 video games. Society's changed, and you got to change with it. So to answer her question, how do I feel about it? I feel that the opportunities for someone who wants to get into our industry now are exponentially better because Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you can grow your own brand.
And you're okay with that?
With absolute, if I'm not, I'm a dinosaur. Right. But what I think, what I like is different guys that take on the challenge and that market themselves not in a way that's a turn off. Get creative with it. We've got a guy right now, Cody Deaner, who I got a long-standing relationship with, but he went out on his own, shot a video, put it on Twitter, and is basically saying, hey, Global Force Wrestling, give me a shot. That's creative. It's very, very creative. Right. And so I
imagine a guy like you're looking for people like that, right?
You definitely, as a promoter, you want somebody who, A, is not going to say, give me money and I don't want to do anything. Those days are gone. And B, let's get creative and really get ahead of the curve. And C, you've got to understand that you know, and this is something that my dad taught me many, many times, my grandmother is, when you get into entertainment, obviously we're not true sport, when you get into entertainment, you're really partnering with the promoter, because if you can make the money, make the promoter money, right, he's going to protect you. He's going to keep you around. If you're a pain in the you-know-what and really can't make him money, is it really the promoter's fault, or is it yours because you don't want to get aggressive and market yourself and get in the gym and look good and look presentable, learn your trade, learn your craft, study tape. Nowadays, growing up, we traded tapes, and you can probably relate to that a little bit. Nowadays, a guy that wants to get in this business can go to the WWE Network, and if they can't afford that, they go on YouTube, and you can watch professional wrestling 24-hour days, 7 days a week, and learn. You can learn from. Just no different than NFL. Study tape.
You watch film.
Exactly.
You see a guy that's similar maybe to your size and build and move set, and maybe pluck something from this guy, pluck something from that guy. That's what I did in my
the deal.
That's why it's so fascinating to me. The whole behind the scenes and how it works and what makes one guy more marketable than the other. Hulk Hogan's a perfect example. Probably not the best technical wrestler that's ever walked the face of the earth, but he had that it factor. He had the charisma.
And there's certain guys that have the it factor, and I hate to keep going back to him because he's such a perfect example.
Sure.
The Rock was obviously, born with third generation in this business. He had a lot of. If he didn't have the passion to be the very best that he can be, he did it in professional wrestling. But then you look at him nowadays, he certainly isn't hurting for a paycheck.
No,
there's no doubt.
We're not going to have a dinner for him.
I don't think we need any fundraisers for The Rock. But look at him day in day out.
Yeah.
He's not only in the gym, he's grinding. He's coming.
Right. He's not resting on anything.
He's looking for new creative ideas, new shows, wanting to do this partnership. That's what Hulk Hogan, like you said, he probably wasn't the best technical wrestler.
Yeah.
If you asked my dad, he would say he's not even close to that. But no, what he did have is the desire to succeed, because nothing replaces hard work. And when Hulkamania was running wild, that guy was on the road. I mean, the average wrestler was 300 days a year. Hulk probably, he did. I know for a fact at times, but he never went home because he was on the road. If he wasn't wrestling, he was promoting or making appearances. So you got to want to do it. You got to have a passion.
Speaking of that, the Monday Night Wars, you were kind of a unique figure in the Monday Night Wars. WWE, then into WCW, all while this was going on. I asked a lot of workers that were involved at that time. Did you guys know at the time that this was an incredible time in the history of professional wrestling, or was it just, hey, I got to make my next shot, it's my next match, it's the next day, just keep grinding?
It's on a case-by-case basis, because I'm on probably one end of the spectrum, being around it my entire life, and also having the luxury of riding with old-timers in the car and knowing the ups and downs of the business. So on my hand, I knew that this is unique, that you put tickets on sale for a TV taping or even just a regular non-televised event that's 8 weeks out and it goes clean and sells out in 24 hours or 48 hours.
Right.
And then you arrive to an airport at 10 in the morning and you've got 150 fans waiting at baggage claim. It was a unique time in the business.
It was, because I remember going out to watch Monday Night Football, and there'd be maybe 4 screens in the bar or the restaurant, and 3 of them would be on Monday Night Football, and 1 of them would either be on WCW or Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
it was huge. And you can't count out ECW either.
Yeah, they were that third.
The Uncola.
There you go. But the WCW, again, before social media, before TiVo and DVR and all that, it was flipping channels, and they were writing articles in the USA Today that it was hurting Monday Night Football ratings and all that kind of stuff. But it was a unique time. But on the flip side, there were guys that got into the business who were maybe fast-tracked because they had a good look and all that, and they were just like, wow, what you were saying, they didn't know any different, and it's not their fault. They had no idea that they walked into payoffs and money that probably the best that they'll ever see, just because of the timing of everything. So there was multiple sides to that.
I'm always fascinated by the story you tell when you decided to be the founder of TNA, and was it simply a case where, I've got all this energy, I want to do something, I want to try and make something happen. Why can't I create a wrestling fed that can succeed, where others haven't? Is it as simple as that? Was it as simple as that for you?
Yeah, in a way, it was. It was a unique time. Again, we were coming off the Attitude Era, and the money that was made, the opportunities, the popularity. At the end of the day, the pay-per-view buys back in those days in 2001, 2002, the business, the pay-per-view side of the business was an enormous cash cow. It was just, again, a different era. And when WWF at the time bought WCW, without a number two, there's no such thing as a number one.
Right.
You're just a standalone wrestling company. I knew there was a huge void in the marketplace, and so I knew there was opportunities. My grandmother promoted, my father promoted, my dad, God bless him, he was willing to both of us dive in, and we got in, and it wasn't easy, it wasn't a bed of roses. It had a lot of ups and downs.
Sure.
But there was opportunity there, and I see the same thing. I saw the same thing, seeing the same thing. With Global Force Wrestling in 2013, and when I left and I sat back and looked at I knew the opportunities, because you could see it then that broadcast and cable television, certainly they're not going away, but when you have Netflix and Hulu, and I'm using those as examples, but just the age of the digital world coming on the scene. And then I've toured enough in my years. My first international tour was in '88 or '89, and Japan sellouts over there, and the business was red hot in the '90s, and then all through Europe through my WWF run in the '90s, and I just knew the international market was not going to get smaller; it was going to get bigger. And then the emerging economies in India and China's going to bust wide open, but all through Europe and South America is an untapped market in professional wrestling. So the potential to because believe it or not, the universal language isn't always music. It is professional wrestling because you can understand it. It's good versus evil.
Yeah.
It's great entertainment. You don't have to. I'm a huge Preds fan, but at times I go. If I'm going to the game with somebody, I'll ask, and I'm like, "What was that called?"
Right.
But you don't have to really.
What's icing? I thought that's something you put on a cake. Right?
Exactly. You don't have to figure that out in professional wrestling, except one day you bring a chair in the ring. Oh, it's wrestling.
Yeah. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Jeff Jarrett. Great to have him here in studio. Your phone calls as well. Stay with us. SportsLine continues right after this.